Robert Chen sat in his big office on the top floor of the Starlight Motors headquarters. The walls were covered with awards and pictures of him shaking hands with important people. Through the large windows, he could see the city below. From up here, everything looked small and perfect. Robert checked his watch. It was almost 7 p.m., but he wasn't ready to go home yet. He opened his laptop and began his nightly routine of checking customer reviews of his 20-car dealerships. "Let's see how we're doing today," he said to himself, typing on his keyboard. Robert had built Starlight Motors from just one small lot into the biggest car dealership chain in the state. He was proud of his business and how he ran it. His rule was simple: treat customers right, and the money will follow. Every new employee heard this from him on their first day. As he scrolled through the reviews, his smile slowly disappeared. There were 5 new bad reviews, all from the same dealership, Starlight Motors downtown. Customers complained about salespeople who lied, hidden fees that appeared at the last minute, and rude service. "This can't be right," Robert said, rubbing his tired eyes. He clicked to see more reviews from the past month. There were many more complaints about the downtown location. Some customers wrote long, angry stories about how they felt cheated. Robert's phone rang. It was his wife, Linda. "Are you coming home for dinner?" she asked. "I'll be late tonight," Robert replied, still staring at the screen. "Something's wrong at the downtown dealership." "Didn't you just visit there last month? You said everything was perfect," Linda reminded him. Robert frowned. He had visited, but now he wondered what he had really seen. When the big boss visits, everyone behaves differently. They clean up, smile more, and show only their best side. "I think they put on a show for me," he said. "These customer reviews tell a different story." After hanging up, Robert called Dave Miller, the manager of the downtown dealership. "Dave, I'm seeing some bad reviews online. What's happening there?" Robert asked. "Just a few unhappy customers, Mr. Chen," Dave answered quickly. "You know how some people are, impossible to please. Our sales numbers are great this month." Robert wasn't satisfied with this answer. After the call, he sat back in his chair thinking. The sales numbers were good, but at what cost? Were his employees cutting corners and treating customers badly just to make more money? He remembered starting his first dealership 30 years ago. He had promised himself he would never be like the dishonest car salesman people joked about. He would be different. His company would be different. Robert opened his desk drawer and took out an old photo of himself standing in front of his first small car lot. He had been so young then, so full of dreams and good intentions. What would that young man think of Starlight Motors now? He wondered aloud. That's when the idea hit him. The yearly inspections and scheduled visits weren't showing him the truth. He needed to see how his dealerships really operated when no one knew the boss was watching. Robert would go undercover. He would visit the downtown dealership as a regular customer, not as the famous CEO. No fancy suit, no expensive watch, no special treatment. Just a normal person looking to buy a car. As he drove home that night, Robert's mind raced with plans. He would need to change how he looked. He would need a different car to drive there. He would need a story about who he was and what he wanted. For the first time in years, Robert felt nervous and excited. This wasn't just about catching bad employees. It was about rediscovering the soul of the company he had built. Tomorrow, Robert Chen, the famous CEO, would disappear. In his place would be just Robert, an ordinary man shopping for a car. And he would finally see the truth. The next morning, Robert woke up earlier than usual. The sun was just beginning to rise, painting the sky with soft orange and pink colors. His wife Linda was still asleep as he quietly got out of bed. In the bathroom, Robert stared at himself in the mirror. His gray hair was always neatly combed, and his face was clean-shaven. Everyone at work knew this look. It was time for a change. He opened a drawer and took out an electric razor. With a deep breath, he began to shave the sides of his head, leaving more hair on top. When he finished, he looked different already. Next, he found a box in the back of his closet. Inside was a pair of glasses he rarely wore and some casual clothes he kept for yard work. Linda walked into the bedroom just as Robert was putting on an old pair of jeans and a plain blue t-shirt. "Robert?" she asked, surprised. "What are you doing? Is that a new haircut?" "I'm going undercover today," he explained, putting on the glasses. "I need to see how things really work at the downtown dealership." Linda looked worried. "Are you sure this is a good idea? What if someone recognizes you?" Robert smiled. "Look at me. Do I look like the CEO of Starlight Motors now?" Linda had to admit he looked very different. Without his expensive suit and with the new haircut and glasses, he could pass for an ordinary middle-aged man. No one would guess he owned 20 car dealerships. "I still need a different car," Robert said. "I can't show up in my Mercedes." "Call your nephew Tim," Linda suggested. "He drives that old Honda. Maybe he'll let you borrow it." An hour later, Robert was eating breakfast when his nephew Tim arrived with his car. Tim was surprised by his uncle's new look, but thought the whole plan was exciting. "Remember, Uncle Robert, this car has some problems," Tim warned as he handed over the keys. "The air conditioning doesn't work well, and there's a weird noise when you turn right." "Perfect," Robert replied. "I'm supposed to look like I need a new car." Before leaving, Robert created a fake identity for himself. Today, he would be Robert Wilson, a high school math teacher looking for a reliable car. He practiced introducing himself in the mirror, making sure to act nothing like the confident CEO he usually was. "Remember to slouch a little," Linda advised. "You always stand so straight at work." Robert nodded, then looked at his watch, his expensive gold watch that everyone at work knew. "I can't wear this," he said, taking it off. Tim offered his simple plastic watch instead. As Robert was about to leave, Linda stopped him. "What exactly are you hoping to find today?" Robert's face grew serious. "I want to see if what those reviews say is true. Are my employees really cheating customers? Is the manager encouraging bad behavior? I need to know if my company is becoming something I never wanted it to be." Linda squeezed his hand. "Just be careful. People don't like being spied on, even by their boss." "I'm not spying," Robert insisted. "I'm just seeing the truth." He kissed Linda goodbye and walked to Tim's old Honda. The car made a coughing sound as he started it, so different from his smooth, quiet Mercedes. As Robert drove toward the downtown dealership, his heart beat faster. He felt nervous, like an actor about to go on stage. Would his disguise work? Would he see the good dealership he believed he had built, or would he discover something that would break his heart? He practiced his story again. "Hi, I'm Robert Wilson. I'm a math teacher. My old car is giving me trouble, and I need something reliable but not too expensive." At a red light, he looked at himself in the rearview mirror. A stranger looked back at him. Good. That was exactly what he wanted. The downtown dealership appeared ahead, its colorful flags flapping in the morning breeze. Large signs advertised "Bid GESTSALE of DHE year" and "No COREDITECK needy." Robert took a deep breath and turned into the parking lot. His undercover mission had begun. Robert parked Tim's old Honda at the far end of the lot. He sat for a moment, watching his dealership from a customer's eyes. The building looked clean and professional, with a large Starlight Motors sign shining in the morning sun. About 20 new cars were lined up at the front, their paint gleaming. Further back were the used cars. "Here goes nothing," Robert whispered to himself as he got out of the car. The lot was quiet. Only 2 other customers were looking at cars. Robert had always believed that every customer deserved attention right away. In his training videos, he taught all employees to greet customers within 1 minute of their arrival. But no one came to greet him. Robert walked slowly past the new cars, pretending to look interested. He checked his watch. 5 minutes had passed, and still no salesperson had approached him. Through the glass doors of the main building, he could see 3 salespeople standing together, talking and laughing. They clearly saw him, but no one came out. Strike one, Robert thought, feeling disappointed. After 10 minutes of walking around alone, Robert headed toward the main building. As he got closer to the entrance, one of the salespeople finally stepped outside. "Can I help you?" the young man asked, not sounding very helpful at all. His name tag read Jake. "Yes, I'm looking for a car," Robert said, using a softer voice than normal. "My old one is giving me trouble." Jake looked past Robert at the old Honda. His smile faded a little. "What's your budget?" Jake asked, not bothering to introduce himself. "Around $15,000, Robert answered. That was a reasonable budget for a good used car. Jake frowned. "Not much to work with there. We have some basic models in that range, but nothing special." Robert was shocked. This was not how he trained his staff to treat people. Every customer deserved respect, no matter their budget. "Maybe I could see what you have," Robert suggested. Jake sighed, as if Robert was wasting his time. "Follow me." Instead of showing Robert the good used cars in his budget, Jake led him to a row of new cars with price tags over $30,000. "This one just came in," Jake said, pointing to a shiny blue sedan. "I can maybe get you a deal at $28,000. You'd have to stretch your budget, but it's worth it." "That's nearly double what I wanted to spend," Robert said, pretending to be unsure. In truth, he was getting angry. This was classic of selling to someone who clearly stated their budget. "Listen," Jake said, lowering his voice. "Between us, those cheaper cars aren't worth buying. They'll cost you more in repairs within a year. I'm trying to help you out here." That was a lie. Robert personally checked the quality of every used car they sold. The cheaper cars were perfectly good for their price. "Let me think about it," Robert said. Jake's friendly act dropped immediately. "Sure, take all the time you need, but these deals won't last." He handed Robert a business card. "Call me when you're serious." As Jake walked away, another salesperson approached. Her name tag read Maria. "Excuse me," she said with a genuine smile. "I couldn't help overhearing. Are you looking for something in the $15,000 range?" "Yes," Robert answered, relieved to see a friendly face. "I have several reliable options to show you," Maria said. "And I won't waste your time with cars outside your budget." As Maria led Robert to the used car section, he noticed Jake watching them with disapproval. Inside the main building, Robert could see the sales manager, Dave, the man he had spoken to on the phone yesterday. Dave was watching too, and he didn't look happy that Maria was helping a customer with a modest budget. Robert followed Maria, his mind racing. Jake's behavior was exactly what the bad reviews had described, but Maria seemed different. Maybe not everyone at this dealership had forgotten his values. "This is one of our best used models," Maria said, showing him a clean sedan. "It's exactly $15,000, has low miles, and comes with a 2-year warranty." For the first time since arriving, Robert felt hopeful, but he still needed to see more of how this dealership really worked. Maria walked Robert around the used car section, showing him 5 different cars within his budget. She knew the details of each car without checking any papers. When Robert asked questions, she gave honest answers. "This one had its transmission replaced last year," she said about one car. "It works fine now, but you should know about it." Robert was impressed. In his company training, he always stressed the importance of honesty, even if it meant losing a sale. Maria was following that rule while Jake had not. "Would you like to test drive this one?" Maria asked, pointing to a silver sedan. "Yes, I would," Robert replied. Maria went to get the keys while Robert waited. Through the office window, he saw the sales manager, Dave, talking to Maria. Dave looked upset. He pointed at Robert, then at Jake across the room. Maria shook her head and kept talking. Finally, Dave threw up his hands and walked away. Maria returned with the keys, looking a little troubled. "Is everything okay?" Robert asked. "Oh yes," she said, forcing a smile. "Let's go for that test drive." As they drove around the neighborhood, Robert asked casual questions to learn more about the dealership. "How long have you worked at Starlight Motors?" "Just 3 months," Maria answered. "I'm still learning." "Do you like it here?" Robert asked. Maria hesitated. "The job is good. I like helping people find the right car." She paused, then added quietly, "Not everyone here has the same goal." "What do you mean?" Robert asked, pretending not to understand. Maria looked uncomfortable. "Some salespeople only care about big sales and bonuses. They push customers to buy expensive cars with lots of add-ons, even when it's not what the customer needs." "Doesn't the manager stop that?" Robert asked. Maria laughed a little. "Dave? He's the one who encourages it. He has a board in the back room with everyone's sales totals. If you're not selling expensive cars with all the extras, you get bad shifts and the worst customers." Robert's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Dave had been with the company for 5 years. Robert had promoted him personally, believing he shared the company values. "What does the owner think about all this?" Robert asked carefully. "Mr. Chen," Maria said. "We never see him. Dave says he only cares about the monthly numbers, not how we get them." She quickly added, "But I don't believe that. My trainer showed us videos of Mr. Chen talking about honest sales and putting customers first." Robert felt both sad and angry. His message was reaching some employees, but the manager was telling them something different. Back at the dealership, Robert parked the car and handed the keys to Maria. "What did you think?" she asked. "It drives well," Robert said. "I need to think about it some more." "Of course," Maria said. "Take your time." She gave him her card. "Call me if you have questions." And she lowered her voice. "If you do come back, ask for me directly. Some of the other salespeople might try to. Well, just ask for me." Robert nodded, understanding what she meant. As Maria walked away, Dave approached her. He didn't look happy. Robert couldn't hear what they were saying, but he could see Dave pointing at his watch and then at the new car section. Maria nodded and walked toward the expensive cars, leaving Robert alone. Instead of leaving, Robert decided to stay a little longer. He needed to see more. He walked to the customer waiting area, a small room with chairs, a coffee machine, and some magazines. From here, he could watch the dealership at work without being noticed. He poured himself a cup of coffee and sat in a corner chair, partially hidden by a large plant. The waiting area had a clear view of the sales floor and the manager's office. Robert settled in, prepared to watch and listen. The real truth about his dealership was just starting to show itself. Robert sipped his coffee slowly, watching the dealership from his hidden corner. The waiting area was empty except for him, which made it a perfect place to observe without being noticed. He picked up a car magazine and pretended to read while keeping his eyes on the sales floor. A young couple walked in, looking excited. They were probably in their late 20s. The woman held a folder of papers, and they spoke in low voices, pointing at cars through the window. Robert watched as Jake quickly approached them, his smile much bigger than the one he had given Robert. "He can smell money," Robert thought sadly. Jake took the couple to the new car section, showing them the most expensive models. Robert couldn't hear their words, but he could see the couple's faces change from excitement to worry as Jake talked about prices. The woman opened her folder, probably showing their budget papers. Jake shook his head and kept pointing at the expensive car. Robert had seen enough of Jake. He turned his attention to the manager's office, where Dave sat at his desk. Through the glass walls, Robert could see Dave talking on the phone, laughing and looking pleased with himself. On the wall behind Dave was a large whiteboard with names and numbers. This must be the sales board Maria had mentioned. A young man in a Starlight Motors uniform entered the waiting area. He looked tired as he filled a cup with coffee. "Long day?" Robert asked in a friendly voice. The young man looked up, surprised. "Yeah, I've been here since 7 this morning. His name tag read Carlos, Service Department. I'm just waiting while they check out my trade-in value. Robert lied, wanting to keep the conversation going. Do you like working here? Carlos shrugged. The job's okay. Pay could be better. He lowered his voice. Between you and me, you should get your car serviced somewhere else. They charge double what other places do. Robert felt his stomach tighten. Really? That doesn't seem right. That's how it is, Carlos said. The service manager makes us find problems that aren't really there. Last week, I told a lady she needed new brakes when she didn't. I felt terrible. But if I don't do it, I'll lose my job. Just then, Dave stepped out of his office and called to Carlos. Break's over. Get back to work. Carlos quickly drank his coffee and hurried away, giving Robert an apologetic look. Robert sat there, feeling worse by the minute. The problems went beyond just the sales team. They had spread to the service department too. Through the large windows, Robert saw an elderly man walking slowly across the lot, looking at used cars. None of the salespeople went to help him. After 10 minutes, the man left without speaking to anyone. Robert checked the time. He had been at the dealership for nearly 2 hours, and what he had seen broke his heart. This was not the company he had built. These were not the values he had taught. Just then, a group of salespeople gathered near the coffee machine in the main area, not far from where Robert sat. Dave joined them, holding some papers. Listen up, people, Dave said, loud enough for Robert to hear. The monthly numbers are good, but not good enough. We need to push harder on the add-ons, finance packages, extended warranties, premium upgrades. I want every customer walking out of here paying for at least 3 extras. Some customers really can't afford them, though, said a salesperson Robert didn't recognize. Dave laughed. Make them think they can't afford not to have them. Scare them with repair costs. Tell them all the smart buyers get the extras. I don't care what you say, just sell them. The salespeople nodded, except for Maria, who stood at the back of the group looking uncomfortable. And remember, Dave continued, Old Man Chen is visiting next month for his yearly inspection. So that week, we do everything by his precious rule book. No pressure sales, no pushing expensive models, no extra fees. He made a mocking face. We'll be one big, happy, honest dealership for exactly 1 day. The group laughed. Robert didn't. He felt sick to his stomach. What happens in this dealership when I'm not here? He thought. The answer was becoming painfully clear. After Dave's meeting ended, the salespeople spread out across the showroom floor. Maria walked toward the used car section, while Jake stayed near the expensive new models. Dave returned to his office, closing the door behind him. Robert remained in the waiting area, still hidden behind the large plant. His coffee had gone cold, but he didn't care. His mind was racing with everything he had seen and heard. 2 salesmen walked into the waiting area, not noticing Robert in the corner. They poured coffee and stood near the machine, talking in low voices. Robert recognized one of them from the earlier meeting, but the other was new to him. His name tag read Paul. So how's your first week going? The first salesman asked Paul. It's different from my last job, Paul replied. At my old dealership, we focused on customer satisfaction. Here, it's all about the numbers. The first salesman laughed. Welcome to the real world. Customer satisfaction doesn't pay the bills. Paul looked uncomfortable. Dave's training is intense. Yesterday he told me to lie about the finance rates. You'll get used to it, the first salesman said. Just think about the commissions. I made $15,000 last month. How? Paul asked, surprised. Add-ons, my friend. Hidden fees. Extended warranties that we know they'll never use. The trick is to add them at the last minute when the customer is tired and just wants to drive their new car home. Robert tightened his grip on his magazine, trying to stay calm. This was worse than he had imagined. Doesn't the owner check these things? Paul asked. The big boss is visiting next week, the first salesman said. Time for the usual show. Clean up, be nice to customers, hide the special pricing sheets. The other laughed. Yeah, old man Chen lives in his fantasy world. He thinks we follow all his customer-first nonsense. If he knew how we really make our targets, he'd have a heart attack. Robert froze, coffee cup halfway to his lips. The casual way they spoke about deceiving him felt like a physical blow. Is he really that clueless? Paul asked. Chen. He shows up once a year, watches everyone put on a perfect performance, and leaves thinking his precious company values are being followed. It's like a school inspection. Everyone behaves when the principal visits. Dave says he's soft. The other salesman added, always talking about honesty and putting customers first. That doesn't work in the real world. You can't make real money being honest in this business. Robert couldn't move. 20 years of building his business, emphasizing ethics and customer satisfaction, seemed to mean nothing to these men. The best part is, the salesman continued, Chen thinks his surprise visits actually work. He announces them a week before, giving us plenty of time to clean up our act. Then he walks around, nodding and smiling while we all play our parts. They both laughed, and Robert felt his face grow hot with anger and shame. They were right. His surprise visits were always scheduled in advance. He had been fooling himself. What about that board in Dave's office? Paul asked. The one with all the red marks. That's the pressure board. Anyone whose name gets 3 red marks in a month is fired. You get red marks for not upselling, for being honest about car problems, or for spending too much time with low-budget customers. That doesn't seem right, Paul said quietly. It's how we make money. Dave calls it juicing the customer. Get every dollar you can, however you can. Just then, Dave's office door opened, and he called out, Paul, customer on the lot. The 2 salesmen quickly finished their coffee and headed back to the showroom. Robert sat frozen in his chair. He felt sick. His dealership, his company, had become exactly what he had fought against his entire career. The words kept echoing in his head. Old man Chen lives in his fantasy world. And the worst part was, they were right. He had been living in a fantasy world, believing his occasional visits showed him the truth. Now, sitting here disguised as a regular person, he was finally seeing the ugly reality. Robert knew he needed to do something. But what? And how big was this problem? Was it just this location, or had his entire company changed without him noticing? Robert sat motionless in the waiting area corner. His mind was spinning with all he had learned. His hand shook slightly as he set down his cold coffee cup. He needed to hear more, to understand just how deep the problems went. As if answering his thoughts, the 2 salesmen returned to the waiting area. Paul looked upset. That customer just left, Paul said. He knew exactly which card he wanted and his budget, but Dave told me to push him towards something $10,000 more expensive. Let me guess, the other salesman said. The customer walked out. Paul nodded. We could have made a good sale at a fair price. Now we made no sale at all. Dave won't see it that way. He'd rather lose 10 small sales than miss one chance at a big one. They sat down at a small table near Robert, still not noticing him behind the plant. Robert stayed very still, listening. You know what happened to the last guy who questioned Dave's methods? The experienced salesman asked. Tom, I think his name was. He refused to add hidden fees to an elderly woman's contract. The next day, his desk was empty. Paul looked worried. That's not right. That's how it works here. Look, I've been in car sales for 15 years. Every dealership plays games with customers. But this place, he lowered his voice. This place is something else. Dave gets away with stuff that would shock even other dealerships. Then why do you stay? Paul asked. Money, the salesman answered simply. I have 2 kids in college. I can't afford to have principals. He laughed, but there was no joy in it. Paul shook his head. There has to be a way to make good money without cheating people. Not according to Dave. Last month, I watched him change the numbers on a contract after the customer had signed it. The poor guy ended up paying $3,000 more than he agreed to. Robert's stomach turned. That was more than unethical. It was illegal. What happened? Paul asked. When the customer came back complaining, Dave showed him the signed contract with the higher numbers. Told him he must have misread it. The guy almost cried, but he had no proof. Didn't anyone report this to the owner? Paul asked. The other salesman laughed. To Chen, Dave has him wrapped around his finger. Every month, Dave sends him reports showing great customer satisfaction scores. Of course, those reports are as fake as Dave's smile. He fakes the reports. Paul looked shocked. Dave has a whole system. He only sends satisfaction surveys to certain customers, the ones who had a good experience. The rest get lost in the mail. And if a bad review comes in anyway, it never reaches Chen's desk. Robert felt a mixture of anger and shame wash over him. He had trusted Dave completely. The monthly reports always looked perfect. Now he knew why. The best was last Christmas, the salesman continued. Dave took the bonus money that was supposed to be shared with all staff and kept most of it for himself. Told us sales were down, so bonuses were small. Meanwhile, he bought a new boat. Paul looked disgusted. How does he sleep at night? On expensive sheets, I imagine, the other salesman said with a bitter laugh. Look, this is how the game is played. Either get used to it or find another job. Just then, a customer walked in, and both salesmen left to approach them. Robert remained seated, trying to process everything he had heard. The fake reports, the changed contracts, the stolen bonuses. This wasn't just poor customer service, it was fraud. Robert thought of all the people who trusted Starlight Motors because they trusted him. People who believed in the company values he had created but failed to enforce. He thought of his employees who wanted to do the right thing but were punished for it. He had built Starlight Motors from nothing, working 7 days a week for years, always believing that honest business was good business. Now Dave and others like him were destroying that legacy, and Robert had been too blind to see it. Robert knew what he had to do. This wasn't just about firing Dave. This was about completely rebuilding the culture of his company from the ground up. And it would start today. Robert had seen and heard enough. He stood up slowly, his legs stiff from sitting so long. He needed fresh air and time to think. Without drawing attention to himself, he walked out of the waiting area and through the main doors. Outside, the afternoon sun felt warm on his face. He walked across the lot to Tim's old Honda and sat inside, not starting the engine. His hands gripped the steering wheel tightly as all the emotions he had been holding back finally came out. Anger, disappointment, shame. How did I let this happen? He whispered to himself. For 20 minutes, Robert sat there, thinking about everything he had learned. Dave, the manager he had trusted, was cheating customers, lying to employees, and stealing from the company. The sales staff were being trained to trick people into spending more than they could afford. The service department was charging for unnecessary repairs. And worst of all, Robert had been completely unaware. The yearly inspections, the monthly reports, the customer satisfaction surveys, all of them had been manipulated to hide the truth. Robert's phone rang. It was Linda. "How's it going?" she asked. "Did anyone recognize you?" "No," Robert said quietly. "No one had any idea who I was." "That's good, right?" "I guess so." Robert paused. "Linda, it's bad. Really bad. Everything in those reviews was true, and worse." "Oh, Robert," Linda said softly. "I'm sorry. Dave has turned the whole place into something I never wanted. They're cheating customers, lying about prices, even changing contracts after they're signed." "That's illegal," Linda said. "I know. And they talk about me like I'm a joke. Old man Chen with his fantasy about honest business." Robert's voice broke a little. "What are you going to do?" Linda asked. Robert thought for a moment. "I could walk in right now, reveal who I am, and fire Dave on the spot. But that wouldn't solve the real problem," Robert said, thinking carefully. "This isn't just about one bad manager. The whole system is broken. If I just fire Dave and leave, who's to say the next manager won't do the same things?" "You need to rebuild the culture," Linda said. She had been Robert's business partner in the early days and still understood the company well. "Exactly," Robert agreed. "And I need to find out if this is happening at my other dealerships too." "So what's the plan?" Linda asked. Robert looked at the dealership building, seeing it with new eyes. "First, I'm going to visit all my locations, not as the boss, but as a customer. See the truth with my own eyes." "That will take weeks," Linda said. "It's worth it," Robert replied firmly. "Then I'm going to make big changes. New training programs. New bonus systems based on customer happiness, not just sales numbers. Mystery shoppers checking our service regularly." "The managers won't like that," Linda warned. "They don't have to," Robert said, a new strength in his voice. "If they can't run an honest dealership, they can work somewhere else. I started this company to prove you can sell cars without cheating people. I'm not giving up on that." As his determination grew, Robert had another idea. "I'm going to work at each location myself, side by side with the staff. One day every month, no advance notice." "Like Undercover Boss?" Linda asked, referring to the TV show. "Kind of, but not secret anymore. I want everyone to know I might be there any day, seeing how customers are really treated." For the first time since arriving at the dealership that morning, Robert felt hopeful. The problems were serious, but not unfixable. He had built Starlight Motors from nothing once before. He could rebuild its soul again. "I should get home," Robert told Linda. "I have a lot of planning to do." "What about Dave?" Linda asked. Robert's face hardened. "I'll deal with Dave tomorrow, and he won't see it coming." As Robert started the car, he took one last look at the dealership. By this time tomorrow, everything would be different. The thought both scared and excited him. "Time to wake up from the fantasy world," he said to himself as he drove away. The next morning, Robert arrived at Starlight Motors headquarters early. He was back to looking like himself. Hair neatly combed, expensive suit perfectly pressed, gold watch on his wrist. But inside, he was a changed man. His assistant looked surprised when he canceled all his meetings. "I need the day clear," Robert told her. "And please call the downtown dealership. Tell them I'm coming for a surprise visit in 1 hour." "But sir," his assistant said, "you usually give them a week's notice." "Not anymore," Robert replied firmly. When Robert walked into the downtown dealership at exactly 9 a.m., the change was already visible. The salespeople were all wearing clean shirts with ties. The floors sparkled. Dave stood at the front door with a big smile, looking nervous. "Mr. Chen, what a wonderful surprise," Dave said, reaching to shake Robert's hand. Robert ignored the hand. "My office," he said simply, pointing to Dave's office. Inside, Robert closed the door and turned to face Dave. "I was here yesterday," he said quietly. Dave looked confused. "Yesterday?" "No, sir, you weren't." Robert took off his glasses and put them on. Then he slouched his shoulders slightly, the way he had done the day before. "Remember me now. Robert Wilson, math teacher, looking for a car under $15,000. The color drained from Dave's face. His mouth opened, but no words came out. "I heard everything, Dave," Robert continued. "I sat in that waiting area for hours. I heard how you train the staff to cheat customers. I heard about the changed contracts, the fake reports, the stolen bonuses." Dave found his voice. "Sir, I can explain." "No need," Robert cut him off. "You're fired. Security is waiting outside to walk you out. Don't bother taking anything from your desk. We'll mail your personal items." Dave's fake smile disappeared. You can't run a successful dealership without cutting corners. The numbers don't work. That's where you're wrong, Robert said. I built this company on honesty, and we were profitable from day one. Times have changed, Dave argued. Customers expect to be tricked. It's part of the car business. Robert shook his head. That thinking is why you're fired. Now leave before I call the police about those changed contracts. After security escorted Dave out, Robert called all the employees together. Many looked scared, especially Jake. Maria stood at the back, confused but curious. Some of you met me yesterday as Robert Wilson, he began. I came here because of bad customer reviews, and what I found was worse than I feared. He looked around the room, meeting each person's eyes. Starting today, things will be different. We're going back to the values this company was built on: honesty, fairness, and true customer service. Robert pointed to the sales board with its numbers and red marks. That's coming down. From now on, bonuses will be based on customer satisfaction, not just sales numbers. Some salespeople looked worried. Jake whispered to another salesman, "If you can't sell cars honestly, you can follow Dave out the door," Robert said firmly. "But if you want to be part of the new Starlight Motors, I promise you this: you can make a good living without lying to customers." Robert noticed Paul, the new salesman, standing straighter now, looking hopeful. "For the next 2 weeks, I'll be working here alongside all of you," Robert announced. "Not as the boss, but as a salesman. I want to show you it can be done right." Maria stepped forward. "Mr. Chen, I just want to say, I believed in your company values from day one. That's why I came to work here." Robert smiled at her. "Thank you, Maria. And I'm making you the new manager." 1 month later, Robert stood in the middle of the downtown dealership showroom, watching his staff work. The changes had been hard at first. Some employees left, including Jake, but those who stayed were building something special. Customer reviews were improving. Sales were actually up, not down. And most importantly, Robert no longer felt like old man Chen living in a fantasy world. Every month now, he spent 1 day working at a different dealership. No warning, no special preparation. Just Robert, seeing the truth with his own eyes. As he watched Maria patiently helping an elderly couple find the perfect car for their budget, Robert felt proud again of the company he had built, not once, but twice.